Imagine a living thing so prolific it literally doubles its mass every 2 days. Not under sterile laboratory conditions or in meticulously controlled environments, but simply by floating in any quiet container of water you provide. A single small scoop, given just 48 hours, becomes 2. In 4 days, you'll find 4 scoops. By the end of a week, you'll possess enough to fill a bathtub. After merely 30 days, you could gather a ton. These aren't just bold claims. They're the verifiable outcome of its exponential growth. So rapid that scientists have labeled it the fastest growing plant on our planet. Yet, its astonishing speed isn't the most revolutionary aspect. This plant, by dry weight, is an astounding 45% protein. Consider this. Eggs offer 12%, beef 26%, and chicken around 31%. This unassuming green outperforms them all. And we're not talking about incomplete protein here, the kind often found in legumes that requires pairing with grains. No, this offers all 9 essential amino acids, perfectly balanced for human needs. A mere square meter of water surface, nurtured for just 30 days, can yield enough protein to sustain one person for an entire month. And what does it ask for in return? No soil, no chemical fertilizers, no heavy machinery, no complex irrigation, no pesticides, and minimal labor beyond simple harvesting. Just water and sunshine. This remarkable plant goes by many names. Scientists often refer to it as lemnaceae, but you might know it better as something quite common. Duckweed, that verdant film you often spot on tranquil ponds and roadside ditches. The one you've been taught to view as unsightly pond scum, that isn't waste. It is, in fact, the most efficient protein production system ever discovered. A single acre of duckweed generates 10 times more protein than an acre of soybeans, and an incredible 20 times more than an acre of corn. It produces food faster than any agricultural system humanity has ever devised. And there's more. It accomplishes something else, something that should have cemented its place as the most valuable crop on Earth. It purifies water as it thrives. Duckweed actively absorbs nitrogen and phosphorus. It draws in heavy metals. It transforms agricultural runoff, which would otherwise poison our rivers, into edible protein. It simultaneously cleanses water and provides sustenance. A plant that flourishes almost anywhere, demanding nothing, yet producing complete protein faster than any crop in history, with water purification as a beneficial byproduct. This marvel should be flourishing in every backyard, atop every rooftop, and in every community garden, within every refugee camp, and across every food desert. Truly, wherever hunger persists. Instead, in much of the developed world, its cultivation is deemed illegal. They label it invasive. They dismiss it as a nuisance. They declare it something to be eradicated. Billions have been spent ensuring you never truly understand its potential. Yet the people of Southeast Asia never forgot its true value. In Thailand, they call it phum. In Myanmar, it's known as ya cayenne. Across Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, it has been harvested from rice paddies for longer than written records exist. This was not a desperation food during famine. This was a fundamental protein source for civilizations that flourished for millennia. The earliest accounts surface in Chinese agricultural texts from 200 BCE. Farmers observed that ponds rich with duckweed yielded healthier fish. They noticed rice paddies benefiting from duckweed required less fertilizer. They saw livestock-fed duckweed grow more quickly and robustly. They didn't need to comprehend nitrogen cycles or protein synthesis. They simply understood the profound results. This wisdom spread throughout Asia. Integrated systems began to emerge. Rice paddies supported duckweed on their surface, with fish living below, consuming any excess. Pigs and chickens along the edges would feast on the harvested duckweed. The animals' waste in turn fertilized the water, which the duckweed would then cleanse once more. Zero external inputs, complete nutritional cycles, food systems that sustain themselves for centuries. When European explorers eventually reached Southeast Asia, they documented these practices with astonishment. A Portuguese missionary in 1590 wrote of villages that produced meat without pastures, unable to fathom how protein could materialize from green water. The knowledge existed. The systems worked. Millions of people relied on them. Then, colonialism arrived. European agricultural models did not embrace pond cultivation. They didn't include integrated aquatic systems. Their focus was on land ownership, vast monoculture crops, and purchased inputs. Colonial administrations systematically dismantled these traditional ways. They drained vital wetlands. They prioritized rice exports over nutritional diversity. They summarily classified duckweed cultivation as primitive. Within 2 generations, knowledge that had sustained entire civilizations began to fade. But not everywhere. In Bangladesh, the most impoverished communities continued to cultivate it, having no other choice. In rural Myanmar, families meticulously maintained backyard ponds. In the Mekong Delta, elderly farmers clung to the ancient ways. The knowledge survived in the margins, among people too poor to abandon what truly worked, among communities too remote for agricultural modernization to reach. They quietly kept growing the fastest protein on Earth, while the rest of the world learned to dismiss it as a weed. NASA rediscovered duckweed in 1985. They were on a quest for the ultimate space crop, with extreme requirements: rapid growth in confined spaces, complete nutritional value, wastewater recycling, and oxygen generation. Duckweed remarkably fulfilled all 4. The research, published in the journal Advances in Space Research, contained data that astonished even the scientists who collected it. Protein content stood at 45% of dry weight. Its growth rate showed an incredible doubling time of just 48 hours. Its water purification capabilities removed up to 99% of nitrogen. No other plant even came close. A subsequent study at the NASA Kennedy Space Center meticulously calculated its yield potential. A single hectare of duckweed surface could produce 140 tons of dry protein annually. To offer a comparison, soybeans yield less than 1 ton per hectare per year. That's an astonishing 140 times more efficient. The amino acid profile underwent rigorous analysis at Rutgers University in 2009. The findings, published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, revealed that duckweed protein almost perfectly matched the FAO requirements for human nutrition, while methionine was identified as the limiting amino acid. Its levels still comfortably exceeded minimum requirements. This wasn't merely animal feed quality. This was unequivocally human food quality. Researchers at the University of Jena in Germany took it a step further, feeding duckweed to human subjects in controlled trials. Digestibility was an impressive 93%. Bioavailability proved comparable to egg protein. The taste was described as mild, with a slightly nutty essence. No adverse effects were observed. The paper, published in 2014, offered an unambiguous conclusion: duckweed is entirely suitable for direct human consumption. Then came the profound water studies. The Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology demonstrated duckweed's capacity to remove 95% of nitrogen and 70% of phosphorus from wastewater. The plant didn't merely tolerate pollution, it actively consumed it. A pilot project in Dhaka channeled sewage through duckweed lagoons. The resulting water was clean enough for irrigation, and the harvested duckweed was fed to fish farms. These fish, in turn, were sold in local markets. Waste transformed into protein. The cost per kilogram of protein produced was less than 10 cents. The World Bank funded a comprehensive review in 2019. Researchers meticulously analyzed 17 years of duckweed studies spanning 12 countries. The conclusion, though filling 40 pages, could be distilled into a single powerful sentence: duckweed is the most resource-efficient protein source available to humanity. The science was settled. The data was overwhelming. The implications were revolutionary. So why isn't it on every table? Why isn't it readily available in every grocery store? Why have most people never even heard of it? In the United States, duckweed is formally classified as an aquatic nuisance species in 37 states. Cultivating it often requires specific permits. Transporting it across state lines can lead to substantial fines. In some jurisdictions, simply possessing it is against the law. The official rationale cites ecological protection. Duckweed spreads rapidly, can blanket ponds, and block sunlight, potentially disrupting existing ecosystems. This much is true. However, this is also true of nearly every successful crop in human history. Wheat spreads aggressively. Corn outcompetes native plants with vigor. Soybeans demand massive habitat destruction for their cultivation. Industrial agriculture has converted 1 billion acres of wilderness into monoculture farmland. None of these have faced bans. But duckweed is different. Duckweed requires no purchased seeds. It needs no purchased fertilizer. It demands no purchased pesticides. It calls for no expensive equipment. You could literally start a duckweed farm with a simple plastic container and a handful of plants gathered from almost any pond. And therein lies the challenge. The global animal feed industry alone generates $400 billion annually, a market utterly dominated by soy protein, supplemented by corn. Both demand vast infrastructure, annual seed purchases, and chemical inputs. Duckweed requires none of this. It costs next to nothing to produce. It grows faster than existing supply chains can conceivably justify. In essence, it renders the entire feed industry model obsolete. The same pattern applies to human protein supplements. The whey protein market alone is worth $20 billion, with protein powders, bars, and shakes relying on costly processing and premium branding. Duckweed powder could be produced for less than the cost of the packaging it would come in. Environmental regulations, therefore, provide a convenient cover. Classifying duckweed as invasive makes commercial cultivation nearly impossible. Permit requirements add layers of cost and bureaucratic hurdles. The handful of startups courageous enough to attempt entering this market face years of stifling regulatory review. Meanwhile, the very plant that holds the potential to solve global protein shortages sits abundantly on every pond in America, labeled a nuisance, legally prohibited from commercial development. And the very people who stand to benefit most, small farmers, food insecure communities, developing nations, are told it's too dangerous to grow. Too dangerous? A plant safely consumed for 3,000 years. Too dangerous? A plant NASA selected to feed astronauts. Too dangerous? A plant the World Bank identified as the most efficient protein source available to humanity. These regulations aren't protecting ecosystems. They are protecting profit margins, and you are bearing the cost. Inexpensive protein, depleted soil, and polluted water. You do not need permission to feed yourself. Here's what they won't tell you. The regulations that restrict duckweed apply to large-scale commercial operations and natural waterways. They do not apply to closed containers on private property. A simple plastic tub in your backyard isn't a regulated waterway. A stock tank on your patio isn't a commercial operation. A child's wading pool on your balcony isn't subject to aquatic nuisance laws. You can legally grow duckweed almost anywhere. A basic setup costs less than $20. One container, some water, and a handful of starter plants. That's your entire initial investment. Within 2 weeks, you'll likely have more than you know what to do with. Duckweed can be dried and ground into a versatile protein powder. It can be fed directly to chickens, resulting in eggs with 30% higher omega-3 content. It can nourish fish in backyard aquaponics systems. It can be added fresh to smoothies, salads, and soups. Just 1 square meter of surface can produce over 1 kilogram of protein each month. The more advanced applications are even more profound. Duckweed can process gray water from your home. It can cleanse fish tank waste in closed-loop aquaponics systems. It can transform nitrogen-rich runoff into valuable food. Instead of harmful pollution, you can construct a truly closed-loop protein system that costs virtually nothing to operate. This isn't theoretical. People are doing it right now. Homesteaders in Florida cultivate duckweed to feed tilapia, which in turn feed their families. Urban farmers in Detroit use it to supplement chicken feed, slashing costs by half. Permaculture operations across the developing world have seamlessly integrated duckweed into robust, sustainable food systems. The knowledge is spreading, despite the regulations, despite the lack of commercial support, and despite the deliberate suppression. Because once people truly grasp the math, they cannot unsee it. 45% protein, doubling every 2 days, complete amino acids, 0 external inputs required. This is not merely a supplement. This is a quiet revolution waiting to unfold. The industrial food system has indoctrinated us to believe that protein must be expensive, that food production demands vast inputs, and that we must remain dependent on complex supply chains beyond our control. Duckweed offers a profoundly different narrative. It tells a story of effortless abundance without asking permission, of protein without the corporations, of true food sovereignty, cultivated right in a simple plastic container. Every pond already holds it. Every warm, still water surface possesses the potential to grow it. The infrastructure for this transformation is already everywhere, merely waiting to be activated. The only remaining barrier is knowledge. And now, you have it. A handful of duckweed, a container of water, and just 2 weeks of patience. That is the humble distance between you and a future of abundant, free protein. Subscribe to this channel and join the growing community of people who refuse to accept artificial scarcity. The most efficient protein on Earth is thriving in ditches, while corporations insist you must buy their products. It is time to stop asking permission. The pond scum is waiting, and it's poised to change everything.